Well, hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on this classic wooden motor cruiser here in Victoria, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, all while fixing it up and some other boats up in preparation for some pretty ambitious cruising. If that's the sort of thing that you might find interesting, please consider sticking around and subscribing. I'd love to have you. And this week I'm back up in Genoa Bay working on MV Poem, and I'm finally getting around to the much needed galley. And more than that, I have a special guest helping me this week, someone who is very familiar with Poem. Anyway, let's jump back in time and get started. And we're back in the shed for another glorious week aboard MV Poem, starting it off with a massive rip on a piece of plywood. Thank goodness! Look who's here! Gonna help me out with it, Lloyd. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, man.
Is it strange to be seen back at Poem like this?
No, it's great, especially what you've done already.
Oh, okay. Well, I really feel good. I'm grateful that you feel that way about it. Anyway, let's see if we can get some stuff done. This is going to be cut into 16-inch strips to start to build the galley, and you know how much I'm keen about the galley. Okay, let's make this cut. All right, here we go. Oh, thank you, mate. That would have been miserable any other way. Beauty! Wow, well done. All right, little project for Lloyd. Something that I've been really looking forward to doing is figuring out what's underneath this. Of course, it's not original, and I never really liked the geometry of this. I mean, I love the boat. Anyway,
it's just not original.
It's just not original, yeah.
Curve.
So, exactly. So Lloyd's going to take this apart. We'll see what's under that. I'm pretty sure it's just the other side of the V-joint bulkhead, but which then I'll cover with something else. But I do want to really start to think about what's going to go on in the cockpit here, so I'm really grateful Lloyd can dig into that. All right, mate? Okay, well, I've been trying to figure out how to make this galley. Lloyd has been hard at work. My goodness, look what he's got done here. So he's got all that mess off of there, and we're down to the original bulkhead. Now, I kind of doubt, I think it's not very likely that that was actually the exterior original bulkhead. That would have been the structural bulkhead inside, because this is softwood. So I don't know what would have been over that. I mean, the door is so beautifully paneled.
See the groove?
Oh, in here, eh? Yeah.
There's a rail for some kind of panel going there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a groove of a real board.
Exactly. I think probably what I'm going to do is echo this theme some more and put vertical mahogany V-groove, very much like I did on Geordie. And it looks sort of okay there, right? Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that'll come together pretty well. And the great thing about it was no punkiness down at the bottom. So it's in good shape. This is actually such a huge cockpit, Lloyd. It always amazed me for such a tiny boat to have this much space back here. Okay, should we continue digging in and see what this starts to look like?
Yep, they took it out of the forecastle.
Exactly.
That's where the space came from.
That's where all that space comes. There's more room underneath this lazarette than there is in the entire forecastle. Okay, so all the pieces are cut, I think. Now the trick is to assemble this all together, and this is going to be a bit of a flimsy mess. Not only that, I'm going to assemble it dry, because it's basically all panels attached thusly with screws and stuff. It will eventually be glued, but I find in something like this, if I try to glue this the first time around, it's just going to be a sticky mess everywhere. So I'm going to assemble it dry, and then what I do, I just loosen the screws a bit, pump a little glue in that joint, tighten it back up, and then clean it one joint at a time or a couple of joints at a time. Okay, let's see if I have enough bench space on here to build this, well, rather tiny galley. Lloyd just jumped out of the shop because he doesn't want anything to do with this flimsy mess I'm making here, but it has been awful handy to help him hold things. This is one of those things that is like you're assembling. We've been trying to think of what it actually is. What it is flimsy, but once it all comes together, it'll be awesome. Yeah, see that big hole is for the stove. This hole down here is for the engine. But I think it's coming together. I think it's coming together. You notice this isn't attached and this isn't attached. The reason that is how do I'm not going to put pocket screws in here or anything. So what I'm going to do is actually put dowels for one side of this connection and screws for the other. That's the plan anyway. Okay. Okay, I'm committed now. Okay, Mr. Lloyd, let's get this. We have a few holes to close all at once here. You can't see any of this. Getting some engagement.
Starting to now.
Oh, yeah. This is a job you want to walk around bench for. All right, let's see how this goes. Good morning. Well, the dowels will have dried up overnight, and I'm not going to do any of the other glue up or refastening until I've done a test fit. Test fit's valuable stuff. All right, so let's see if I can figure out how to carry this thing. And yeah. Hey. This thing is an awful lot bigger indoors than it was outdoors. All right, and it goes right. It goes right there. Oh my gosh. Okay, so everything fit just perfect. It's time to actually tighten this up, assemble it properly, and get it ready for the final install. I've actually decided not to glue and just put a heck of a lot of screws in. I'm not actually sure the trouble of gluing and the mess and the cleanup is actually all that valuable in a situation like this, because by the time this is all battened and ledgered to the bulkhead, it will be super, super solid. Okay, but the basic carcass made next would be a sink. And what I'm going to do is actually reuse the sink that was in the boat, which is just a classic old bar sink. But I'm not going to use all the flange and this tap. I'm actually going to cut it with just a minimum flange and set it flush by making a little rabbet into the countertop here. Because, of course, this is not the final cabinet countertop. There will be a countertop that fits on top of here, which might be soapstone, it might not be, but in any event, it'll mean that the sink becomes an undermount sink because it's basically sitting in this substructure or sub countertop. Anyway, so the layout is a little tight, as you can see. So if I imagine the sink is going to sit about there, imagine the countertop is going to hang off by another inch or so. That's about there. I have a faucet. It's actually a hair big for this, but it's a standard one hole, so I'll be able to use it for now. And if I find something smaller, I could adopt something smaller for sure. The thing is, I could use a small bathroom faucet, but it's very hard to find one that's reasonably high. So it's very hard to do dishes with a tap that's too low. For instance, a bar tap. Very hard to work under here. Anyway, so let's zing this apart and see if we can drop that in here. Whoever installed this was a butyl tape fan. Glad to see that. Well, glad in a certain sense. There we go. A little cleanup and that'll be just delightful. Okay, now the problem with this big tap I have is that to get it to full hot, the lever goes quite far back and it would hit the bulkhead and means that I have to move the tap fairly far forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat. I'm going to rotate. In other words, I'm going to rotate the whole fixture in in the counter this way so that this has much more clearance, and hopefully that won't bother me when it's time to put in a different faucet. Anyway, let's say that that's going to go about there. Now the sink is actually slightly wider than it is long. In other words, it's not symmetrical. So it's tempting to put it in this way, which gives me lots and lots of room, but of course it costs me lots and lots of counters. So I think I am going to put it the long way. It'll mean there's only a little bit of whatever the countertop there is around the edge, but you know, that's the nature of this sort of thing. So I'm going to say it's going to go right there. Beauty! Hey! Now I just got to route out a little relief for the thickness of the stainless. There we go. Very good. And I'll epoxy that in there and fill this void with epoxy, and that will make a nice semi-waterproof base until I can bring something in that will cover this edge of the lip. Really pleased with that. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Because of course cutting this huge hole in the countertop did deplete a bunch of strength here. So I'm going to take this nice piece of 1-inch mahogany and just set that right up in there, and that will provide lots of strength across the front of here. And when you open the cupboard door, yes, you'll see it in the top inch or so, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. I'm also going to set a ledger in on the inside where it sits up against the bulkhead, so that we can fasten it to the bulkhead nice and secure. There we go. Alright, and so this will be the plinth with pocket screws at the front, so there's no exposed fasteners. Nice, nice, nice. And well, good morning. I am really pleased with the way this carcass for the galley turned out. It is, granted, a bit flimsy, but I needed to make it as simple and as thin and as compact as possible, and well, I've achieved that. So now I just gotta make it look a little bit prettier and figure out how to get it in and secure. I have some ideas. Let's kind of make it up as I go along, as I often do. If you can figure out what this is here, this is the backside, and this is the opening for the Force 10 stainless steel stove and oven that will come in here someday, but not soon. So I'm just putting this shelf in, recessed slightly, so I can use my camp stove in here for the next little while. Okay, this is the back side of the cabinet. This is where the oven's gonna go. And I'm putting another ledger in here that will help affix the whole thing to the bulkhead. And instead of putting it underneath, which you might think would be normal here, I'm gonna put it up where the oven cavity is, because the oven has a huge void in behind it. There's lots of room here. But here, I wanna maximize this out for a drawer, a pots and pans drawer, that will literally come within a 1/16 of an inch of the bulkhead. So I get lots and lots. All right, so let's just fire this up right here. Okay, what I'm up to here is tidying up the front edges of this plywood. This is Sapelli plywood with genuine Sapelli veneer on it, but the front edge is plywood. And this is going to be a face frame cabinet. In other words, this is going to be visible. No, it's not. This is going to be visible. So across this particular line, there's going to be a band that goes all the way around the cabinet. And these other little pieces here are just going to go like that. Be glued and pinned on and sanded clean, eased just a little bit, so by the time I put my beautiful mahogany drawer in here nice and flush, it will be just delightful. Okay, at this point it's just cut, trim, glue, nail. All right now, so this band is going to wrap around the corner, and that's for a couple of reasons. One is that there's fasteners out here I need to cover up, and two, I need a way to separate this upper side panel, which is above the engine, if you can see, imagine where we are here, and the panel that will be removable. There'll be like a corner panel here that looks like a drawer and a side panel, but there'll basically be one panel that'll come out for access to the little Beta Marine. So that bead on the side here gives me that differentiation between the upper side of the galley and the lower side of the galley. Anyway, you'll see when it all comes. Excellent. As long as we clear the carburetor there and straight down. There we go. Whew.
Beautiful.
Sonny, seems tiny outside, it seems huge inside.
It does seem big.
You know, there's enough room there to make a grilled cheese sandwich,
There
right?
is.
Okay, now we have to cut the engine hatch out because it won't clear this here. And I knew that was the case. I just wanted to trim it in place.